Now, companies are going to have to bring more inventory forward and to hold. So that's going to affect profitability until those inventories are substantial again. Number one. Number two is that people are going to have to reset their expectations, and I don't mean that your lifestyle needs to collapse. You just have to kind of think it through a little bit. I remember when I was a kid, is that we got things on our birthday and Christmas.
400% returns on your investment sound far-fetched, but investors have figured out how to do it. Investors in Dogecoin saw their shares spike 400% in a single week. Doge started out as a joke, but now it's a top 10 digital currency worth $40 billion. Non-fungible tokens, record sale, Beeple, 69 million. Whoever would have thought? And with the changes in the economy and everything hitting record prices, it's vital that you find out about trends like these before the general public does. I was able to profit myself because I learned to trade through Trade Genius Academy on the crypto side. I took part in various courses, personal coaching, chat rooms, Signals trading tool. That's where I look for price signals in cryptocurrency from Bob Kudla at TradeGeniusAcademy.com, who also offers other signature trading tools for stocks, exchange-traded funds, binary options, and commodities. All you need is an internet connection to get started. Interact with Trade Genius community, fellow traders, and certified Trade Genius trades, alongside professionals who generate revenue for themselves in the stock market every single day. Live buy and sell alerts text to your phone, built for both new and experienced traders. TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Click on the link in the description box below and use the promo code MAY for 40% off all non-bundled items. And now on with the interview. And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today I'm with Bob Kudla, TradeLikeAGenius.com. As always, we try to get together each month to discuss our different specialties, either in the financial markets with Bob and myself with the Grand Solar Minimum, and these different effects that are now showing themselves, because whether you're in the economy, history, solar activity, agriculture, they're all dovetailing into, there's massive changes going on, and it's just all of us sharing information or trying to explain things as a wider picture together.
People don't realize, all our nitrogen fertilizers come from natural gas. So the Biden administration trying to limit the fracking in the United States is basically eliminating our ability to create fertilizer here as well. So when the people that are watching this thing are kind of Green New Dealing their brain a little bit, they have to understand, your food comes from this stuff too. It's just not transportation. It's your ability to heat your home and also to feed your family. And so these knock-on effects, I think this is why we're starting to get jiggy here, is that, the Biden administration is replete with activists. And with Joe not really being at home, these people are like pushing the agendas of their own personal pet projects. And they don't think about knock-on, which means what's the second derivative of their action. They only think about what they want. These are children. And I want what I want because I want what I want. They don't realize that, hey, by doing this, oh, by the way, people aren't going to go to work, right? So you have an employment problem. Oh, by shutting off fracking, oh, well, guess what? Now we don't have a supply, X, Y, Z, it just goes down the line. Oh, we're going to make you use renewables. Well, Texas has, people freezing to death because wind shut down and they wouldn't let them cross FERC lines to bring in cheaper energy from across the United States. So on and on it goes because they have an agenda, but people's real lives are at risk here. And I think what's going to happen here, Dave, is that it's going to be really interesting. All this stuff ties together. So you have all of a sudden now you have Ohio saying we're ending lockdowns completely, all the restrictions. California ending it completely. CDC now is on defense. In a year and a half, all the truth starts pouring out because the Biden administration realizes they're going to get their asses handed to them on the next election. if they keep going down this path, because the polling data is atrocious. The soccer mom is the swing vote in the country, and Biden administration has lost the soccer mom. She can't send her kids to school. She can't send her kids to camp. She can't let her kids play. Okay. And now food's getting expensive. She can't feed her family. All right. Oh, and then she's scared out of her wits because they're letting these crazy people run around these cities doing this random act.
Yeah, and the swing vote might also, in addition, be the soccer mom, the computer code that never disappears. Oh, did I say that? That's too risque. Sorry, Bob. Let's continue. Yeah, with everything rising in price, can you imagine when the food doubles and people's unemployment is taken away and they have to go find jobs again and get reduced back down to from $18 an hour back to 10, or from 17 down to 9 or 8 again to the regular minimum wage? And people become accustomed so quickly in these last 6 months of having double wages. I mean, can you imagine you and I, if we lived on a double wage, how you're like, wow, well, you'd be able to accrue so quickly. Now, how is it going to be psychologically for people to get stepped back down into the reality again of you have to go work for your money? But at the same time, your cost of most things has doubled. And I don't know how many times you have conversations with people that just randomly, oh, the food's expensive. Oh, this is expensive. And I want to add one fuel, the fuel to the fire, no pun intended. The fuel from the refineries that wasn't making into the pipelines down here in the Southeast US, they were trying to put into barges or store it anywhere on water, get it floated off so they could still have the refined products to then take off the barges or the ships and then put it back in the pipelines once they reopen, which they are sort of right now. But everything filled up and there was a lack of any types of storage, even on water. 2 refineries had shuttered operations in the last day completely. There was nowhere for them to put anything. So now it's the bottleneck going backward of, all right, the pipeline needs to get refilled because it pretty much was drained out and the storage tanks were drained and the onward destinations of everything has been, used up and utilized. All right, well, that all has to refill in addition to what people are still psychologically overbuying. It's going to take more than a few days to get stabilization on your guaranteed gas is back in the station again. But now we got to go one step back where the refineries have now shuttered. So, I know whether it be a nuclear plant, electrical production plant, coal burning power plant, refinery, they just don't come back on in a day. It takes them quite some time to ramp up and, safety and get operations and pressures and everything back up. So even if you turn off and shutter they just actually literally turned off the production in these refineries. Like, we got to shut everything down. There's nowhere to put it. We can't bring in, everything's full. We got to stop. And in addition, those cracks in the bridge over the Mississippi. So I was talking about the cracks coming more and more as we get into this crossing magnetic field line in July of this year. And from that point forward, you're going to see a lot more earth cracks, rifts. And these are the exact same things I was talking about. And John Casey references quite a bit too in his book Upheaval. When we come into these magnetic anomalies and we get into these grand solar minimum effects where our Earth's crust is affected magnetically, the Earth is going to shift in the top 1 to 2 miles generally. You're going to have the big earthquakes, big volcanoes. Okay, that's its own separate subset. What the set of circumstances here is breaking bridges, ripping pipelines, electrical conduits ripped, and railroad tracks and highways separating by anywhere from a couple feet to a couple hundred feet. And here we have Mississippi showing tearing on the bridges where they're shutting down bridges over the Mississippi. Okay, if it's not going by pipeline, it's going to be coming by road. There's another bottleneck in supply, and you can already see this coming. UK is shutting down an enormous amount of rail tracks because there are cracks in the rail tracks. Magically, all these cracks are starting to happen right when we're coming to this magnetic field coupling in July of 2021. From that point forward, it's going to get super intense to 2024. We're going to have all kinds of things ripping, breaking, and so I really think this is just a very, very taste in the beginning of what the world's going to experience in terms of supply chain disruptions. So how do you protect yourself against that? Because nobody expected the refineries would shut. They always thought they had extra capacity there. So I don't know what's going to happen when we start to get more rips and cracks. We got the pipeline shut down. You got, like talking about fracking, although I'm not a fan of contaminating water tables. If it could be done in a different fashion, to get natural gas production. But wow, we're getting into so many corners right now. I feel like, there's so many things going wrong that are pushing us to a corner here. And I just don't know how Money is a great way to do it. Resources, food, stored water, ways to be able to buy other things that you're going to need in the transition points moving through when you see the changes. But I don't know, I'll leave it there. Kind of a lot to throw out at you, but I'm sure you have an answer. That's some thoughts about that.
The answer is yes. That's a joke. You ever watch those Japanese movies where they translate in English and the guy goes on for like 20 minutes and they translate yes in English. So yeah, look, that's called the Slinky Effect. And we talked about this before. Actually, what's been happening is kind of a blessing in disguise because people have a chance to kind of wake up here on, this pandemic was not as bad as it could have been. And so now people have to start realizing that we've been really, really spoiled, I think, over the last 50 years in terms of uninterrupted supply chains. Get whatever you want to eat whenever you want to eat it. Get whatever you want to order whenever you want to order it. And the pandemic has shifted that. The things that are happening in the earth is shifting that, and the global solar minimum is shifting that. But also the economic, basically the reversion to the mean here. You're just starting to see supply chain disruption. So now companies are going to have to bring more inventory forward and to hold. So that's going to affect profitability until those inventories are substantial again. Number one. Number two is that people are going to have to reset their expectations. And I don't mean that your lifestyle needs to collapse. You just have to kind of think it through a little bit. I remember when I was a kid, is that we got things on our birthday and Christmas. Now, I talk to people and say, I just buy what I want when I want to buy it. And now people have to go back to kind of thinking through when they really want something and plan for it again. And I think, once you reset those expectations, you're in good shape. And the same with trading, that something's changed this week. Okay. So we've gone from what they call the buy to dip mentality to now we're going to get into what's called the sell to rip mentality, meaning that as prices push up higher, it'll hit these ceilings. That's where you need to take profit, or if you're having a position, you're able to short it or go against the market going higher. You're going to see more of that because prices need to reset now to reflect this new world we're in. And this cheap financing that the governments have been living on and people have been living on, that's going to change too, because, for every person that benefits on a cheaper financing, a saver gets screwed. And so that has to come back into balance. And as that comes into balance, the price stock market PE values are going to fall. And it's just going to basically bring the market all down. So, people need to understand that we're living in weird times. The last 10 years is not normal. And we're going to go back to normal. Normal is going to feel awful because we've been living in Hawaii and now you got to fly back to Bismarck in November, So that's what people are going to have to start dealing with is the basically getting back to what's called normal. And it's not going to feel good, but that's the way it's going to be. And I think, Dave, too, what's really going to throw people off is that, look, we're going into the global solar minimum, but, it looks like the MJOs in Indian Ocean are saying, hey, we may get an El Nino flare up this year. So everybody's going to say, hey, everything's back to normal again. And then the El Nino cycles through back to another La Nina going into 2023, then into 2024 low, then I think people are really going to be shocked. So you get these recency effects of saying, oh, hey, everything's cool again. And then we're going to get hit with the second harder hit. And so I think both our monologues are basically saying to people is that you got to start thinking again. You just can't throw a dart at the stock market and make money. You can't just call Amazon to get what you want when you want it. And I think you'll be fine. But you need to be smart. Like I'm here in California, that's not the moment, but normally, and we keep about a month to 6 weeks worth of food on hand, canned food, dry goods, frozen foods, because, we have very real issues here in terms of earthquakes, not not just necessarily supply disruptions. But if we start getting supply disruptions and people aren't going to travel through the cities to deliver because it's going to become escape from New York, is that it's going to disrupt people's ability to get stuff in the grocery store. So people need to start getting smart. And what you're doing is awesome. So if you have a chance to grow a garden, grow a garden. If you have a chance to be on a farm, be on a farm. If you have a chance to get out of the city, get out of the city. And you'll be fine.
Any one suggestion for that? More compost, the better for the garden. You might think, wow, it's so thick and fluffy. Look how great that soil looks. But once it rains a bunch and it gets compacted down, use double or triple what you think it might be. Go out and get a ton of it. Instead of getting, 10 bags on sale, go fill up the back of a pickup truck or rent it, have somebody come out and drop 5 tons on your land out there, 3 tons, whatever it would be. Compost doesn't smell. It's already been decomposed down. But, thinking about that, remember when we were kids and you did have the stores had inventory in the back room back there, or there were warehouses around the cities for different places, or half the store's actual floor space was the storage in the back. Anybody who's, the younger kids are going to have a more difficult, or the younger generation will have a more difficult time dealing with it because they've grown up in this whole instantaneous buy. They didn't live through, oh, you do need to wait for 2 weeks, come back and we'll get it for you. Okay, you got ordered out 3 weeks. Okay. And you kind of, you're excited in the beginning, then you forget. Oh, no, and then it arrives that day. And you're like, wow, I got it. The psychological change is going through this time too, in addition to the financial changes and everything else. I mean, there's going to be a lot of intergenerational mixing of mind thoughts happening during this time, because we can readjust to a slower style because we lived through it once. So it's easier. It's like riding the bike. You forget, you ride the bike and then you get a car, and then you can ride a bike again if you need to. But somebody who's never ridden a bike suddenly gets thrown into that. It's very different. So, maybe we're lucky that we grew up through that era so we could see it transition to the instantaneous era. And if we need to go back, we could go up either road there and still be fine.
I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I'll take exception to one thing that you said with respect, is that these kids aren't as materialistic as probably the generation between when you and I were kids and my daughter, and they're more into experiences. Like, my daughter, she's happy as a clam just hanging out with her friends and not even doing anything, just kind of hanging out and screwing around, doing TikToks and stuff like that. And so I find it interesting because I'm always kind of judging the future by, and she's very typical. I mean, look, she goes to college. She's graduating this year. Just yesterday, she just texted us that I was offered my job back. We're opening again. So 14 months without work, and she has a very specific skill, so she couldn't just go anywhere else. And they called her back, said we're reopening in July. And so, but for her, hey, we're gonna go hang out at grab some Dunkin', go down to the beach, kind of a thing. That's, these kids are more into just like hanging, and which I think is probably good. If that's the expectation of, there won't be material things, so get used to enjoying experiences. So I don't know, I just want to throw that out. Maybe your listeners have similar experiences. I don't think my daughter is anything special, and I just kind of observe and just to kind of test against, how I was, you and I were kids. We got on our bikes and came home at night. We had a different form of nothing. Our experiences were eyeballs. These kids, they see the world through TikTok, so.
Yeah, you're on the beach, hanging out, and there's a baby octopus. You whip at one of your friends, it sticks on their back. That's kind of good fun when you're a kid.
Yeah, now you go to jail for that kind of stuff.
Don't pull the legs off of Daddy Long Leg. You get arrested.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know. It's cruelty to spiders. So
yeah.
But
right.
Hey,
anyway, I'll put the link below to reach out to Bob here. TradeGeniusAcademy.com. You can start right there and see, what might work for you if you're looking for education or if you're looking for guidance. There's a whole array of what you might find there, of what we talked about tonight. And if you want to take some action and move forward with
tremendous opportunities right now, when there's dislocation, there's opportunity. So The crypto space is firing. You know, now alts are moving. You know, in the stock market, we're going from this dull FANG environment to now commodities, and so and it's always a good time to learn a new skill. Once you learn how to trade, you have a life skill. You're never unemployed, and so we can help you get there. But check us out, tradelikeagenius.com. Got specials running this Saturday, and join a real good group of people that we all kind of think the same way.
All right, Bob, thanks for your insights for this week, and I hope everybody got something out of our talk. But if you didn't, I can sum it up in one word: prepare. Maybe that would be the best way to sum it up.
Absolutely.